can't find that issue with both hands. And that's because he's let down the side. The people who were happy conservative voters because they believed in what Preston Manning stood for, believed in populism, and that the top party brass would never deny them the candidate of their choice. Forget that. Stephen Harper keeps insisting on candidates, pulling people out, rejecting them. Top-down control is his, it's his absolute modus operandi. So that he's lost those people. Then there's the people who were progressive conservatives. Remember Joe Clark said when the Alliance Party took over progressive conservatives, Joe Clark said, this isn't like a death in the family. This is the death of the family. And they're increasingly progressive conservatives who realize they have no home in the conservatives. People who look for fiscal responsibility. You look around the issues, and the people who thought Stephen Harper is going to go into that Ottawa, full of those awful liberals and their sponsorship scandal, and he's going to be like the sheriff that cleans up Dodge. All those ethical entitlements, we're not going to see any more of that anymore. Oh, no, he just appointed on one day, he appointed 21 senators. On one day, he appointed 21 conservatives to fill the chairs in the Senate, and then they did something that has never been done in the history of this country. They insisted that those people vote the way PMO tells them. There's a division. The Prime Minister's office is not supposed to have anything to do with the House of Sober Second Thought. It wasn't a big secret that Mike Duffy hadn't lived in PEI for decades, but Stephen Harper appointed him anyway. And Pamela Wallin, who thought she lived in Saskatchewan? Nobody in Saskatchewan. These ethical breaches, the abuse, the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff writing a check for $90,000 as a bribe to keep a sitting senator from talking? This is an ethical scandal of immense proportions, and it stinks. And it doesn't just stink to people like us, it stinks to people who voted conservative all their lives and feel so let down. They're so let down. They may be so let down that they vote Green, but they also may be so let down that all they can do is stay home. So the Conservatives are not going to get anything like the minimal support they got in the last election. How many Canadians voted Conservative who had the right to vote? 24%. That's because 40% of Canadians didn't vote at all. So for those of you who may be worried about splitting the vote, please look at the evidence and realize our problem isn't vote splitting, our problem is vote abandoning. It's the 40% of Canadians who stay home that we have to reach. We don't need to tell people who love voting NDP that they shouldn't. God love them. Go vote NDP. Somebody who's a diehard Liberal, go ahead. What we need to do is find the people who are so disgusted and disenchanted that they didn't vote at all, because that's where the votes are. People who want to get elected should go. It's like, was it Al Capone who said, they said, why do you rob banks? And he said, that's where the money is. Don't you think if people want to get elected, we should go to where the votes are? And where the votes are is the people who were disgusted, let down. We were on a rant about this not long ago on Gabriola Island. Gabriola happens to be the home territory of a very fine person who's the NDP candidate in Nanaimo, Ladysmith, former head of Islands Trust, Sheila Malcolmson. Oh, the fear about the old demon vote splitting, they got it fierce there. So, and Paul Manley will be a wonderful member of Parliament. I can't wait for him to be elected. You know, he used to be on the National Board of Council of Canadians. I haven't run into anybody in my life, with the exception of Stephen Schreibman, who's the lawyer for Council of Canadians, who understands trade law and investor state agreements as well as Paul Manley. I'm so grateful. He's the trade critic now for my shadow cabinet. He's fantastic. So here we are in Gabriola, and we were kind of worried because it's Sheila Malcolmson's home territory. And we go into the meeting thinking, oh, it's a rainy night, it's pretty miserable, maybe we'll get 60 people, 80 people. They weren't sure. We got 350 people. And I was on this rant about vote splitting and vote abandoning. And there was a person there, I said, yeah, but you're not really going to get those people to vote. They don't vote. That's why, you know. At that moment, Paul Manley's campaign manager got up and outed himself for something I would never have guessed. He's a brilliant, brilliant young man named Ilan Goldenblatt. He's fantastic. He's Paul Manley's campaign manager. And on Gabriola Island, he got up and said, you know what I was doing in 2011 during the election campaign? I had a radio show out of Nanaimo. It was an anarchist radio show, and I was telling everybody why they shouldn't vote. I was getting people to commit. that they wouldn't vote because I couldn't see any reason to vote, because when I looked at the parties, I couldn't see a party that I could trust. And he said, I'm knocking on all the doors of everyone I told not to vote, tell him, we've got our chance now. We can change the whole system by electing Greens to Parliament who will go there not to expand partisan short-term advantage for Greens, but to fix all the stuff Harper broke, to fix it all by working cooperatively across party lines, to get climate action, to make it a priority, to get rid of first past the post, to make it a priority. And when Paul Manley's campaign manager, Len Goldenblatt, explained that he'd been begging people not to vote in the last election, we had a similar experience with Fran Hutchinucci. Someone said to Fran, yeah, but you're not going to be able to get the people who don't vote to turn out and vote. She said, I took my nomination papers to First Nations communities, and of the 100 names I got, 70 of the people who signed there had not voted in the last election. We have got to reach those people, and yes, I don't mind if you convince an NDPer that they're better off voting Green. I don't mind. But we need to convince people who didn't vote that this is their moment to be powerful. This is their moment to change the course of Canada's future, which we will do by increasing voter turnout across Canada and by persuading people from the other parties, whether they used to vote Conservative, used to vote Liberal, used to vote NDP, that what we're offering is something better. Members of Parliament who are ethical without having to be given a rule book to figure out how to avoid the rules. People who understand that this is hard work, but it's for the purpose of saving the country and the planet, and that we don't get a lot of second chances. As a matter of fact, on climate, this is it. We got a good opportunity coming up at Paris negotiations, but Canada's got to show up there as a whole different country than we've been for the last 9 years. And it won't happen just by going orange or red. It only happens with enough Greens in the room in Parliament to insist on the priorities that really need to be achieved. And we can do this together. So I'm really thrilled to turn over the microphone to your Member of Parliament, the first ever Member of Parliament for Esquimalt Saanich Sooke. I've had the great fun of working. I have to say, I feel like I've worked for Francis in the past, and that's because I've been a speaker at Creatively United for the Planet. And I've wondered, who is this woman who's organized this whole thing? And it's so amazing, and there's hundreds of people here. And then, of course, I'd seen her byline years ago in the Times Colonist. Frances Littman will be a fantastic Member of Parliament. But it won't happen without all of us working very hard. And we will.